Good evening. It's Monday, December 16th, 2024. You are watching Co-op for Two, broadcasting live from Champaign, Illinois. It is the nature of doing a continuing series that people drop off as you go. We'll see how many people show up for tonight's stream. YouTube says 7 concurrent viewers, but I see we've got a couple of regulars here. Pretty thin crowd. For our continuation of the Winter Trilogy, a set of 3 cases, 3 fan-made cases for Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. We played Chapter 1 on Friday, was it? And we are playing Chapter 2 tonight. And then we will take a break on Tuesday and return on Wednesday for Chapter 3, which I have scheduled for 2 sessions because it looks particularly long. Looks like maybe the chapter for today, which is called The Case of Fumes and Fire, maybe it's about the same length as Friday's case, and we dragged that one out a bit. So I do think we will be able to finish this in one night. Okay, let's catch up with the chat. And I want to hear, there are only a couple of us here tonight, so we can talk a little bit. I want to hear what you guys are up to, what your plans are for Christmas. Does everyone here celebrate Christmas? Will you have presents? How does that work? While you're replying to that, I'll do a little bit of bookkeeping here. On Sunday, we played our first case of an improv New York noir game that's being written as we play it by a viewer of the channel, Matt C. So our next letter will be this coming Sunday. If you haven't watched that, you may want to go back and watch episode 1 from yesterday so that you can catch up with us, because that's a very rare experimental, interesting thing that we're doing that doesn't come around very often. Jonathan Warner says, the main thing for Christmas is a small family get-together and gift exchange. Jonathan, do you travel anywhere during that, or are you already staying home? Are you already home next to family? Melissa says, I'm currently knitting some socks. I have to work the holiday, but we'll do a family thing on the 24th. I watched a movie on Netflix that I want to recommend. Jonathan Warner says, no travel, local family. The movie I wanted to recommend is called a little documentary called The Remarkable Life of Iberlin. Is that right? It's about a handicapped kid who spent most of his time in World of Warcraft online. And it's a very touching documentary. I would recommend it. I don't need convincing that having a digital life can be as rich as having a real life out in the world, and that your friends over the computer are as real as any friends. So, but still, it was very lovingly done, and I would absolutely recommend it, especially for those of you, I guess if you're watching YouTube, you fall into that category of people that has a rich sort of digital life. So maybe you'll find it satisfying, or what's the right word? I don't know. Maybe you'll find it comforting. Okay, anything else to talk about before we get started? The only interesting thing that we'll have to grapple with, and figure out regarding chapter 2, you'll remember that what Vincent van der Swag, the author of this case, did is he reprinted his own rules, his copies of the rules and map and all that. And he's used the original rules that say for any given case, you may need any of the papers, all of the papers earlier than that case. And our case today is set March 28th. So theoretically, for this case, March 28th, 1889, and when Vincent released his package, he included original newspapers from the original game. So what that means is that conceivably, with our first case was set in January 1889. So conceivably, we will need this case from the previous custom case. This was the custom newspaper. So in addition to the newspaper from today, March 28th, we may need conceivably all of the original Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective papers from 1888. That would mean March 20th, 1888, July 4th, 1888, August 17, 1888. Then the one from Chapter 1, which was January 10th, 1889. Then the one from the original set, March 5th, 1889. And now today's case, March 28th, 1899. Now, that's too many papers to read through. So I'm not sure how to approach that. I guess we will definitely read through today's paper, and then maybe we'll go back a couple weeks to this original paper from the original set, or the Space Cowboys set, that was included. But maybe, and the first, okay, so I suggest that we consider these three papers our main papers. Today's paper from today's custom case, the original paper from the original set from 3 weeks ago, and then the beginning of the year paper from our custom first case. And I suggest we not go all the way back to 1888 original papers, unless there's some very good reason to do so. All right, I think that makes the most sense. It looks like Anna has showed up. That's good, because Anna was the one who said, I can't play it on Tuesday the way you mean to schedule it, so I can only be here on Monday. I can't make it Tuesday, so we've rearranged everything to play it tonight. So it's good that Anna has showed up to play it with us. Now, our experience with chapter 1, is there any lessons we should learn from that playthrough that we should consider for today's playthrough? Maybe that we're not going to get an explanation for everything. All right, let's read our introduction. It's going to also be interesting to see how these cases change. He did write them in this order, and I don't think they're connected. I mean, it's hard to see how you could connect chapter 1. Those people should all be locked up in jail. Well, let's find out. Custom Case 2, The Case of Fumes and Fire by Vincent van der Swag. 28 March 1889. As we enter the brownstone, Mrs. Hudson tells us we're not allowed any further unless we thoroughly clean our boots. I've had enough of all this cleaning up. You lot would drown in dirt if it wasn't for me. As we scrape out boots across the doormat, Sherlock makes his way down the stairs. Ah, gentlemen, you are just the remedy for my issue. I'm in need for some detective work on an interesting case, yet I have not the time for it myself. Not faltering in his movement, he continues, passing us outside. He turns around, but continues walking backwards as we hastily make our pursuit. I'm off for a walk in Green Park, real busy. You, however, should empty your schedules. Only then does he halt his pace and look us in the eyes. You all have kerchiefs, no? We nod absent-mindedly. Good, good. You need to be sure not to inhale too much of the fumes. Well, off you go. And with that, Sherlock makes his way onwards, just short of running. We stand befuddled as he turns down George Street out of view. Before we can make sense of it all, a young street urchin runs up to us. He looks at us for a second and then throws the morning paper. Sherlock told me to give you this. We catch the paper midair and find the urchin already running past us, continuing on with whatever task Sherlock has put him on. Okay, I guess it's all going to be about the paper then. Well, I guess there's nothing else to do. Sort of correcting the grammar on the fly as I go here. Okay, so I guess we've got to go through our paper. It's Thursday, March 28th. And we've got the paper for this morning. Let's see what we've got. We're going to read this paper fully because it's short. And it's all we have to go on. On the 23rd inst, that means of this month, wife of M.L. Watersbury, mayor of Tywardford, of twin daughters, okay? Deaths on the 25th of this month at her home of old age, Mrs. Carey, a beloved mother and grandmother of a large grieving family. On 27th February at Dublin, Michael Eckel, whose homestead lies in London, lost in a horse race accident. We have some funerals. London Necropolis, Brookwood, private station near Woking, 500 acres, exquisitely planted, most beautiful cemetery in Europe, 50 minutes from private station, adjoining Waterloo, refreshment and retiring rooms, cheap return tickets on Sundays for visitors. Charges fixed by Parliament. The London Necropolis, I don't know what that is, but that's interesting. Boar and deer hunting party looking for members. Perfect for leisure of high quality. Already associated with Sir Clayton Partridge and Sir Bennet Tinker. Well, say no more. Other men of high esteem come for tour and lessons before joining. Free entrance on Mondays. The New Hunting Association of London's Men. Okay. And we've got some magic elixir, incredible remedy for a large variety of ailments, cures colds, coughs, and throat ailments of all types. 2 shilling, sold everywhere. Lord Cantlemere will give a lecture on Monday, April 1st, on the importance of social casting and the division of qualities amongst men at Boodle's, 26 Stratton Street, Northwest. Painless Dentistry, Dr. Harrison Beaufort, surgeon dentist, 23 years old, Strand, WC, 23 Strand Street, WC, facing Charing Cross Station, inventor of a new and improved system of adjusting artificial teeth without plates or pallets. Charges are moderate, consultations free. From 10 till 5, illustrated pamphlet, post free. And we've got some personals here. Personals and etc. Howard Cree of Massachusetts sent proof of inheritance for Brexton Estate to London and Globe, 79 Page Street, Southwest. Found a diamond earring, gold inlaid of high value. Wishes to return to owner, no reward needed. Contact me at 27 Sussex Street, Southwest. Sounds like we should stop by there. See if we can help get that to its owner. Fire broke out at Clarence Robinson Funeral Parlor last night. Chemical fumes released. People living on Twining Street or Great Wild Street are advised to keep windows closed for the remainder of the day. Amount of casualties unknown. If your deceased family member was under their care, please inform police. Okay, well, that's clearly related to our case because Holmes was telling us to bring a kerchief for the smoke. Okay, so this is going to be our case. Memorial brasses and bronzes, illustrated lists or special designs. Estimates are free. I don't know how you'd contact that person. Okay, what have we got here? Drury Lane Theater, 13 George Street. Grand opening after 3-month construction, reimagined by grand architect Gilbert Welch. Open Monday through Saturday. Admission base 1 shilling. Angelini Giacomo, only tonight at Anglers. And we have Madame Tussauds, over 400 portrait models. Superb new court trains as war at Her Majesty's drawing rooms. Orchestra 3:30 and 7:30. Open 9 a.m. till 10. Admission 1 shilling. Under 12 years, 6, whatever. Well, how does it work? Can someone give me what the D's are again? Shilling, and you got shillings, you got pence, you got dimes, 6 dimes. And how many dimes to a shilling? Refreshments are at popular prices. Okay. London Harbor, March 26th. A freak accident occurred far up the Thames from London in which a West Indies boat sank whilst docking to the shore. The cause is unknown. All 12 crew members were rescued by passers-by. No casualties. To the editor of the Times, sir, my strong opinion is that new workmen are needed to replace the old. The dying features of our beloved city's buildings have laid blame on the shoulders of those that saw over its design. I am, of course, referring to the architects and workmen that brought us onto such monstrosities as Borough Road and Blackfriars Road. The mayors should be held accountable to some degree. That's an interesting complaint. Monstrosities such as Borough Road and Blackfriars Road. Well, we've been on those roads here on this map. I don't remember them being monstrosities. All right, only one article jumped out at us as being related to what Holmes cares about, but I am curious also about this diamond earring. Suppose we should head down here, though. Clarence Robinson Funeral Parlor. Twining Street and Great Wild Street. Okay, well, let's see if we can't find that place. So, no Clarence Barrow there. What about funeral homes? We don't have funeral homes here. Clarence Robinson, maybe it will be under Robinson. There we go. Robinson Clarence. 71 WCR. Let's start taking notes properly. So far, only one place to go here related to our case. 71 WC. Okay. Actually, it looks like this is a fairly small case booklet. We arrive at the charred remains of Clarence Robinson's funeral parlor and find what looks to be the man himself sitting outside on the sidewalk. The fire brigade is busy cleaning up their tools, and multiple bobbies are standing guard. We ask the officer how many victims the fire caused. 4, last I counted, he says. Next to the smoldering building sits a man with tear-stained cheeks. We walk up to Mr. Robinson and introduce ourselves. Terrible thing, just terrible. Today was supposed to be the first day of my holiday. He fingers his kerchief and stands up. I suppose you want to ask me some questions, don't you? Oh, if it's all right with you, yes. We were wondering if you could tell us more about the bodies found downstairs. We had 3 bodies to be prepared for funeral today. Walter was working late last night trying to get them all ready. Walter, he was your mortician? Yes, Walter Latham, best in the business, real pro. I want you to know that. I heard the fire marshal saying it was probably Walter who dropped some chemicals, hence the stench. But I knew him. He wouldn't make such a mistake. And it continues. Or we continue asking him. And who were the 3 deceased that were being prepped by Mr. Latham? Oh, yeah. Well, there was Patricia Carey. She had a real sweet family. That one died of old age, I think. And we had John Mobley, businessman for some bank. Lastly, we also had Clint Wallace, a sailor for the West Indies. Real bruised up body. Walter had a hard time making him look good. I remember him saying. Don't know much beyond that. We thank Mr. Robinson for his time and make our way closer to the burned-down establishment. We find ourselves hastily reaching for our kerchiefs to cover up our noses. The foul stench of chemicals lays heavy in the air. The bobby at the door informs us that all bodies have been moved to Bart's and that we're not allowed inside because the roof might still collapse. Returning to Mr. Robinson, we ask about the chemicals used in his parlor. I don't know the details, really. That was Walter's job, but I know it wasn't much. He went west onto High Street only every 2 weeks or so to restock. Okay. Well, we got lots of information from the scene of the crime. We've got 3 bodies that were being prepped. Patricia Carey, John Mobley, and Clint Wallace. Okay, and then we got Walter, who's the mortician. What's his last name? Walter Latham. Okay, let's write these out. We've got Walter Latham, Tricia Carey, John Mobley, and Clint Wallace. Okay, so there's our 3 people and our mortician. And then he mentions one other thing, right? He says, well, he doesn't use that many chemicals, but I do know that once a week he goes west onto High Street. So we could probably visit the chemist to find that out. Let's keep track of where things are here on this map. 71 WC. Where is that? There's 70. There's 71. It'll be kind of hard to see it with the yellow on yellow. Okay, so there's our 71. And he says when he goes for chemicals, he goes west onto High Street. John says, is Bart's where our autopsies are? Yes. Maybe we should add that here. So remember, we are playing with we're playing with Eric's cards, and this is our Bartholomew's Hospital autopsy, Sir Jasper Meeks. Okay. But I still want to find out where the chemicals are bought at. Is it west onto High Street only every 2 weeks? What street is he talking about? Is he talking about High Holborn Street? Well, maybe we don't need to know that. Maybe we can just look at chemists. I'm assuming he went to a chemist for that. Let's see, what have we got? Here's Squire and Sons in WC 66 WC. Could that be where he's going? 66 WC is here. Ah, there's High Street. Okay, so surely there's the chemist on High Street right there. So 66 WC. That's our chemist. All right. Well, let's do what we normally do. Let's look up addresses for these people that we want to visit. Did it say why the sailor was all bruised up? It certainly did not. The Bobby said 4 victims. We only heard about 3. John says Walter didn't make it out. That I was about to wonder about Walter, but I didn't even catch that. Probably, I guess I should have spent a little more time on this. Sometimes when I'm reading it, I'm not even hearing it. Okay, let's just see here. How many victims? He says 4 victims. And there's Walter. Okay, so probably Walter didn't die, or has Walter faked his own death? Has Walter faked his own death? All right. Let's go look at these people again. Okay, Patricia Carey died of old age. Mobley is a businessman for a bank. And we've got a sailor for the West Indies who's all bruised up. Hard to imagine someone not wanting these bodies found, but you never know. But they've been moved, right? All the bodies have been moved to Bart's. I mean, that seems like maybe the first place we should be going. We may want to look in the paper for any other articles about those victims. But let me look up these people first so we don't forget. So where's our Walter Latham? Walter Latham, 48 North. That's the home address of the mortician that we suspect is dead. Then we have Patricia Carey. Patricia Carey, 29 Northwest. And we have John Mobley, works for a bank. '56 WC. And then Clint Wallace. 68 Southeast. Okay. All right, where would you like to go? Shall we go look at the bodies right away? Is there anything else pressing? That we have to worry about? Witnesses. You could imagine a witness across the street of this funeral home. And Walter's house, but it feels like the autopsies, the bodies are what we want to see first. He might know a little bit about whether they're blown up. Is there some way to visit the fire brigade? I don't think there is in Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I don't think there is a way to visit the fire department. It certainly is in New York Noir. In New York Noir, you can visit the fire department of every neighborhood, but I don't think there is in Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. All right, let's head over to Jasper Meeks and see what we've got. We find Jasper Meeks bending over the blackened corpse of one of the bodies found at Robinson's. Not a pretty sight, I'm afraid. He stands up straight and looks across the 5 charred bodies lying on the multiple tables. Now there's 5? Not much more than bone, really. Fire was too fierce and lasted too long. I'm honestly having trouble identifying them. Well, we'd be happy to hear whatever you could tell us. Jasper points over to one of the pitch black bodies. Well, that one's a woman, I can tell you that. Only woman. I put her at age 80, give or take. The others are a bit harder. The only woman. Okay. He walks over to a different corpse and pokes at its exterior with a thin metal prong. This one seems to have been wearing some kind of leather overalls. Not much different from the ones I'm wearing right now, so I'm assuming he was the mortician. As for the other 3, he sighs deeply. Well, one of them, a heavy-set man, had jewelry on. Quite expensive stuff, if I'm to judge. Another, small fellow, didn't have anything on him, besides tattered clothes. And the last one was a heavy-built man, real strong shoulders. Jasper, don't look at that. Jasper notices we have our kerchiefs pressed against our noses. Oh, that. I got used to it by now, but yes, the smell is quite unpleasant. Not your average fire smell, is it? Don't know what type of chemical caused it, but would be nice to figure out. It might help us figure this thing out. You wouldn't think the embalming stuff would be flammable, but maybe it is. Maybe it's all alcohol and stuff. All right, so now we've got 5 bodies. 5 bodies. We've got an 80-year-old woman. Do it this way. We've got an 80-year-old woman. We've got a mortician, maybe, with leather. Then we've got jewelry, heavy-set man. Beside him is we've got a homeless man. And then we've got heavy built strong man. So the woman is mentioned to us by the owner of the funeral home, right? And the mortician, Walter, should have been included in our 4. And this sounds like the West Indies guy. And we have a businessman, Mobley, who probably is this guy. But one of these is an unknown. Maybe someone who caused the fire. But one of these people we don't have a name for, right? Because we've got 4 names and 5 bodies. Okay. Well, I guess I'm interested in the chemicals, and I'm interested in starting at Walter's house, and then we just stop by these other victims and see what we can learn. We might want to look at the paper too to see if there are any articles on. In fact, let's do that right now. Let's look at the March 5th paper and look for anyone that might have died. Where's our deaths? Furnishings. No deaths listed in the March 5th paper. Let's just quickly scan it and see if we see any of our people in the paper. This is the default paper for Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective from 3 weeks ago. I just want to see if we might not catch one of our people. Here's our dentistry guy. These look like items. I don't know. This is something we should care about. What about this? We played a case with this guy, didn't we? Is it possible that he's at the funeral home? Where's the other side of this? Master at sea. There's our West Indies. Then we just got international mail. Patricia Carey is our dead woman. And here's earlier in the month, a murder of James Carey. Is that a coincidence? Doesn't sound like this guy. Well, it could have been the son of this woman. Not husband, he's too active, but possibly. Possibly. Okay. Well, we'll remember. We'll come back to that. All right. I'm thinking maybe we go to verify the mortician is dead. Let's see. How do you close part of the album out? Is there someone we could talk to about the chemicals? I'm thinking we could stop off at that pharmacy chemistry place where this guy buys his stuff. We might be able to learn about it. And it says the jewelry man could be the banker, and the one with the strong shoulders, the sailor. Yeah, so that's what we're. Seems like we're all on the same page there. Okay, well, let's start by visiting Walter Latham, 48 Northwest, the house of Walter Latham. Let's see how his wife's doing. Maybe we'll have to break the news to her if she hasn't heard it yet. Surely she has. We make our way to the homestead of Sir Walter Latham on the outskirts of central London. Though there is no answer when we knock on the door, the neighbor comes out to talk to us. The police just came round to share the news. strange to think Walter isn't with us anymore. Were the two of you close? No, not really. Just being the friendly neighbor and all. He wasn't home much, worked tirelessly. Don't know how a man can stand working with those dead bodies, but he seemed to enjoy it somehow. I often switched to different topics. The man could talk on and on about it. For whatever it's worth, he seemed to be a real expert in his field. Okay, so sounds to us like he was committed to his job. He probably wouldn't be up to no good and probably would not have made a mistake causing a fire. Okay, and definitely sounds like he's dead. It doesn't sound like he'd want to fake his own dead. Let's visit the chemist at 66 WC. All right, so it looks like we're on the right trail there because there is an entry for it. First mistaken for customers, were let in and given a warm welcome by the proprietor of Squire and Sons. Mr. Squire tells us about the quality of his medicinal drugs and how effective they are. He shows us the toiletries and other medical goods that are for sale and even talk about how hardworking his sons are. When we inform Mr. Squire of our business, his demeanor changes. Yeah, I heard about the fire, and I'll tell you this. If it really was the chemicals that did it, it surely was the fault of whoever was handling them. What we sell here are only high-quality, stable products. Could you tell us about the type of products you sold to Clarence Robinson? He's the owner of the funeral home. I never dealt with the man himself. It was always his mortician, Mr. Latham, that did the shopping. A hogshead of phenol and 2 jars of chloroform every 2 weeks exactly. Last time he came around was 2 days ago, I think. Chloroform, that sounds like it might be combustible. Last time he came around was 2 days ago. Okay, so they stock up. So he had a big stock of it. Was there anything out of the ordinary when he dropped by? Not that I can remember, no. And are there any peculiar situations with other folk interested in either chloroform or phenol? We had 2 fellows wanting to buy chloroform a couple weeks back. 2 separate occasions. First guy wanted 4 jars of the stuff, but was outraged when I gave him the pricing. The second fellow came in a couple days later. He started asking where we kept the jars. Not how much they cost, mind you, just where they were. I didn't like his demeanor, so I asked him to leave. Do you remember their names or what they looked like? First one introduced himself as Beaufort, like it was supposed to mean something. Okay, we recognize that name, don't we? Second, didn't give a name, but he was small and meager and had copper skin. I thought I saw him again a couple days back when I walked past the temple where the homeless hang out. Wow, both of those sound like good leads, don't they? Okay, where do you remember seeing Beaufort? That was in the paper, wasn't it? And we got a lead on possible homeless guy, 66 WC at the chemist. We've got Beaufort, and we've got the temple, and we've got the 2 drugs being phenol, 2 chemicals being phenol and chloroform. And we've got 2 people asking for chloroform. Couple weeks back. where we keep the jars, not how much they cost. That's weird. Okay, well, that's pretty interesting. Okay, he bought them. He restocked 2 days ago. Okay, so let's check out Jonathan's observation about the homeless people and see if it mentions the temple. Census of paupers. Okay, no mention of the temple here. Now, where was our Beaufort? Where did we see Beaufort? Was it in our paper for today? January 10th. I know we saw Beaufort. Is he the dentist? Yes. Okay, so he's the dentist that we picked up on, and well, it makes sense he would want chloroform. Nothing really surprising there. So maybe it's the other guy we should worry about at the temple. All right. Why would Beaufort? No, Beaufort's just buying chloroform. I don't think there's, I mean, we will investigate him, but I don't think there's anything odd about Beaufort wanting chloroform. But what about the temple? Are we looking for a church? What temple are we talking about? Greenhouse? That's the Beaufort house. That's interesting. I don't know. What do you think? Can we look up temple? Is that the name of it? Oh, the temple. Huh. 33 EC. Okay, and Beaufort, if we want to write down, is 23 WC. All right, let's visit this temple. He said these. What was the description? We should probably write down what he said was the description of the guy. He said there's Beaufort. Second, didn't small, meager copper skin. That's consistent with the body that was found homeless, right? He didn't say he had copper skin, but that's because he's been burned up. But he did say he was small. Okay, Temple 33 EC. Let's visit that, and maybe we'll take our first break. (33 EC). We walk the grounds looking for a talkative vagabond. We find a hairy man who's covered in dirt and smells of booze that's willing to help us out. We're looking for a man who was here a couple of days ago, maybe even more often. He's short in stature, has copper skin. Does that sound like anyone you've seen? Well, if I had to guess, and I'm just guessing, I'd say that if you were to ask me, man you're looking for is, his eyelids close and a low rumbling snore protrudes from his lips. We grab the man's shoulder and shake him awake. Oh, like I was saying, that guy. A tiny one. Small. Depends on your definition, really. Is it okay with you lot if I just call him small? That's much easier, really. So yeah, a small guy. He's the Italian, is what we call him. Well, that's what I call him. Or that's what I'm going to call him right now. I mean, anyways, he'd be small and Italian. And his name was, this time we grabbed the man's shoulder before he has a chance of dozing off. He's one of us. Comes here every day for free supper. I haven't seen him today, though. Well, like I was saying, he and his friend are always talking money. Sorry, what was that? His friend. The one I told you about, the dentist. Are you fellows listening? Well, the two of them go all sneaky over to Arundel Street. When they meet, that is. Thinking I don't notice. Well, I do. And I did. And I done. Man rubs one of his eyes with a dirty hand and lets out a yawn. Well, if you don't mind, good sirs, I'd like to get back to my dreams. You've taken up enough of my time. We hand him a few coins before he lays down where he stood. Okay, so we've caught two ne'er-do-wells. One is the dentist. The dentist and this homeless guy are in cahoots. He's Italian. And he comes by with the dentist. 33 EC. I mean, it sounds like they're after chloroform. Maybe they're after cheap supply of chloroform and they were trying to steal it. So the homeless is Italian. He's a friend of Buford. They're always talking money, which Wiggins perks up at. Sneaky over to Arundel Street. That's where they meet. All right, what's on Arundel? Was that our chemist? I thought the chemist was on High Street. Is Arundel near there? No, that's a different thing. Okay. Let's make a note of where this temple is because Arundel might be useful relative to that. 33 EC. Oh, there's the temple. Never noticed that before. Actually, it does seem familiar now that we did it. Okay, 33 EC. They head over to Arundel to do their potting. Do you see Arundel nearby? There may be some of you with access to the digital version of the directory. If you do, don't look it up. That's not proper. We will just consider it for a while and keep our ear open for Arundel Street. Where is our dentist located? I didn't think he was going to be involved in this case, but now he clearly is. 23 WC is the dentist's office. Where is that? There's 24, 22, 23. I thought that might be Arundel, but I don't see it. 16 next to Somerset. Oh yeah, there is Arundel. Well, it's a very small street. There's only one building here. Huh. That's tempting. Well, we are here. Shall we just go across the street to Arundel and look around? But what's this? That's our funeral home. So they're plotting over here. I think it's not this that's important, it's this. This is why we put these stickers on the map so we can see. So the homeless person come here and he and the dentist go here to talk about money. I think they're stealing chemicals from the mortician. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back in 8 minutes. Well, we're back. Anna says it seems a bit unlikely that a dentist would hire a homeless man to steal chloroform because the price is too high, but it sounds like that is the case. That may be the case we have in front of us, yes. All right. So when we left off, we were noticing that the homeless guy and the dentist hang out to talk around Arundel Street, which sure looks like it might be right across the street from the funeral home where the fire is. We're going to stop by now to 16WC in case anyone has seen them talking, but I'm inclined to think that it's really more about the funeral home. The dentist is over at 23WC, so I think we'll just make our way down and go to the dentist's right after this. But let's check for 16WC first, just to see if anyone would have seen anything. Well, looks like someone might have. Arundel Street is not much more than an alley. Warehouse entrances stand mostly closed, and what few windows there are all have a layer of dust around them. We walk around for an hour, talking to whoever finds themselves in the street, mostly passers-by, but a few locals tell us more about the area. One of them, an elderly lady that walks her beagle here often, knows of whom we talk. That fancy-dressed man seems to do most of the talking. The thinly block Italian, you say he might be. The thin bloke, Italian, you say he might be. Well, could be right. He did the listening. Now that you mention him, I think I talked to him before. I often take the time to talk to beggars. That's often all they really want. If I recall correctly, his name was Paolo Veronesi. I got a good memory. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. I think 'twas about a week ago, maybe more. And all I remembers is that the fancy fellow told the meager fellow to grab all the jars he could find. Don't think he knew what the fancy fellow was talking about exactly, but from the looks of him, he could use some work. Either ways, I made my leave before they spot me. Okay, so it's good we went to 16. We did find the name of our guy. Sounds like Paolo Veronesi. And it sure sounds like the dentist is bringing him around. The dentist goes in, finds the chloroform, where it's sold, and then has the homeless guy goes and steal it for him. Now, we shouldn't expect to see Paolo Veronesi in the directory, right? He's homeless, or even if we do find him, he's not living there anymore. But let's just check to make sure. Yeah, no Veronesi here. All right. So I think we're ready to solve this case, to be honest. But certainly we're not going to try to solve it yet. But it feels like we might have uncovered all the key components of this case. Well, let's head over to the dentist's office. I mean, I want to confront the dentist and see how fishy he is. So 23 WC. We enter the beautiful dentistry parlor of Mr. Beaufort and are greeted by a jewelry-endowed man in his late 50s. Welcome, gentlemen. What can the great Beaufort do for you today? You got a broken tooth that needs fixing? Maybe a jawache I can cure for you. No, Mr. Beaufort. Unfortunately, we're here on more serious business. Have you heard about the fire that broke out in the area last night? Oh, yes, sad story that, over at Clarence Robinson's, was it? Real shame. Guess it was the mortician, yes? What makes you say that? Well, for starters, there's all those strange chemicals morticians have to work with. And besides, working from a basement. So, not that much light and all. Besides, it was during the night, so maybe he was working in the dark. Just saying, it could easily be a couple of spilled chemicals that started the fire. Thank you for your theory, Mr. Beaufort. Can you account for your whereabouts yesterday evening? Well, I was here, of course. The business is flourishing, like it should be. With a wild hand gesture, he almost knocks off a couple jars behind him. And may we ask, are those jars of chloroform? The man's golden necklace rings as he shakes his head to the side to inspect the label-less jars standing in the closet. Oh, yes. They're common practice for my establishment. We use them for our new techniques. A new way of operating, a revolution in dentistry, really. We notice most of the jars are nearly empty, but as we try and pry more information out of Harrison Beaufort, we're interrupted by an assistant. My apologies, Beaufort, but we have a patient waiting for you in the other room. Ah, yes. Well, gentlemen, good luck with your inquiries, but you'll have to let me get back to my work now. Duty calls. So, let's not forget We've got the jewelry, but none of the other dead bodies we have any reason to be suspicious of. He's mostly out. Well, clearly he's been having these jars of chloroform stolen. He uses a lot of it, and it's very expensive. But should we be suspicious about the jewelry? I mean, we should go put a name to each of the bodies, make sure they are who they say they are and don't have any connection. If our dentist is up to robbery, could murder be another? Could he have anything to do with the murders? So far, it looks like it's just an accident, though. Jonathan Ennis says, so the fire was an accident caused by the Italian fellow while he was robbing the funeral parlor. That sure sounds like what happened. He knocked over the jars, ended up burning himself and the bodies. Seems like case closed. John says, could Murray help us confirm what chemicals might have accidentally mixed to start the fire, or dot the I's and cross the T's? Yes, you could. We could try to track that down. All right, well, let's review that. We think we could have this case completely wrapped up. We believe we know the identity of the 5 bodies. We believe the homeless man is Paolo, who was working with the dentist. The other 4 are the ones that were already dead that were being prepared for embalming. So that solves that mystery. We believe Paolo was sent into the funeral home to steal the chloroform that the dentist admittedly knows all about. So it feels like we have solved this case. But if we're going to cross our T's and dot our I's, as Jonathan said, we might talk to Murray. He might know a little bit more about chemicals and fire. You could imagine that Porky at the Raven and Rat might know about some robbery. We probably don't have any carriage depot to worry about, or criminal history, or need to talk to Holmes or Scotland Yard. Certainly not Mycroft. You could imagine that the library might have information about what chemicals, how they work. Newspaper, probably not. No, no, no. Doesn't sound like there's anything else. I mean, I guess theoretically you could say that we might find criminal records of our dentist. Old criminal records. Theoretically, if our dentist has a criminal past, it might be interesting. But let's follow up with what Jonathan was saying. Let's see if Murray has any insight into the chemicals in case there's anything for us to work out. I'm not sure that is. And then there's the issue of whether there might be side cases that we want to solve, like the jewelry. Okay, here's Murray. Murray informs us the fire must have broken out when the chemicals mixed. He's unsure what composition. He does know that chloroform doesn't burn. However, it does release a poisonous fume that could have knocked out anyone in the vicinity. That way, no one would have had the time to put out the fire, even if it started as a small accident. So chloroform doesn't burn. Interesting. So, but if you knocked over while the guy lit a fire to work, remember we were told he works in the dark down in the basement? So if he's got a gas lamp and the chloroform gets knocked over, knocks them out, fire starts, no one can put it out. That might be Jonathan's idea of developing a better theory of what actually started the fire. You could imagine this might help us answer that question. Phenol was the other one. All right, well, what if we head over to the library and see if we can learn a little bit more about, maybe Lomax knows about, apparently not. He's rearranging the shelves. He doesn't have time to help us. Okay. Jonathan says there is a dental college. Is there any other? There's no fireplace, right? Because that would be a useful person, would have some insight into fires. The jewelry stuff is a little suspicious to me, too. I mean, there are other dentists. I'm sort of curious to go to another dentist and ask about Beaufort. Let's just do that for fun. Let's go to Jones, who works in the same neighborhood. Let's just see if any of them have any rumors about Beaufort. Okay, here's the other dentist. What would I need chloroform for? Maybe you could knock out your patient to avoid him hurting, but that doesn't seem medically sound if you ask me. That makes sense. You could see our dentist our criminal dentist is actually pioneering a technique that's going to come in handy. I'm sort of curious to hit the other dentist just for the fun of it. 93 Northwest, to hear what these other dentists say about each other. Chloroform? No, we don't use that. I don't even know what to use it for. The elderly dentist finds all our questions to be confusing. We let the man be and leave the establishment. That's pretty funny. Okay, so that's the dentist. Well, I'm sure you guys have some ideas, but before you do, I'm sort of curious to check if these side cases are anything we should care about. Let's check out about this gold diamond earring. I wonder if they're going to have found it near our crime scene. Let's see, 27 Southwest. Okay, 27 Southwest is not in the book, so that's not a real case. Anything else we should care about? I mean, we can knock on the doors of the people who are being buried. Yes, let's do that. Okay, just to make sure there's nothing else we should worry about. Okay, Patricia Corey, this is the old woman. She's at 29 Northwest. We enter the home of Patricia Carey and are confronted by a grieving family. 3 generations are mourning the loss of their beloved grandmother who recently passed away. They have not the heart to tell them of the news that her body was burned beyond recognition. Awkwardly, we leave the house feeling worse than before. I have to say, I feel like, well, okay, let me save my thoughts for in the end when we finish. Okay, here's John Mobley, 56W3. John Mobley's house. In the north of London, we're met by the grieving widow of John Mobley. My husband was a good man. He simply loved to drink. It was part of his job, he always said. Where did your husband work, ma'am? At Credit Lyonnais. But you won't find much going on there now. They're closed for the day in memory of my loving husband. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back inside and join my family. Okay, doesn't seem relevant for us. Although you could imagine if our dentist took out a loan, he might have some incentive to kill someone. But why would he? He wouldn't purposely kill his helper. And the helper clearly died of some accident. Okay. Clint Wallace, 68 Southeast. I feel like our case might be wrapped up here. Making our way up the stairs to the apartment of Clint Wallace, we notice the loud laughter coming from within. We knock on the door, and a man in his mid-20s opens. What can I help you with? Well, if you don't mind, we'd like to know more about Clint Wallace, and we're sorry for your loss. My loss? Did Clint die? Well, yes, we reply hesitantly. He was being kept at Clarence Robinson's funeral parlor. The man grins from ear to ear and shouts over his shoulder, "You hear that, honey? Supposedly I'm dead, lying in a funeral parlor somewhere." He bursts out a single laugh. Ha! We're sorry, but are we to assume you are Clint Wallace? The one and only. I don't know who told you I was dead, but as you can see, it isn't the case. Now, if you don't mind, me and the missus were just enjoying a nice glass of wine. Well, that's odd. Hmm. I guess we have to investigate the West Indies. How are we going to do that? How are we going to investigate the West Indies sailor, and why does he... All right, well, we do have an entry. The docks are off our map, but the West Indies Steamship Company isn't. I wonder, have we uncovered a separate crime here? Why does our funeral director say that that was Clint Wallace? All right, well, let's go to the West Indies and see what we can learn. 20 EC. How strange. How strange. Okay. We make our way into the offices of the West Indies Steam Company to gather more information about Clint Wallace. We're pointed towards the head clerk, who's happy to help us with whatever we need. We're looking into the fire that broke out at Clarence Robinson's last night, and amongst the bodies was one of your employees. Ah, yes, you're talking about Emmons, right? The man takes our confused looks as confirmation and continues. Jerome Emmons. We tried to keep that one quiet on the request of the family. He drowned after jumping off his boat in a drunken stupor. His family wants to keep that part from becoming public. Did I answer everything you wanted to know? Well, actually, as far as we knew, the sailor that was laying at the funeral parlor his name was Clint Wallace. Wallace? The man nearly shouts with surprise. Oh no, that's terrible. Well, I'm absolutely positive his name is Emmons. What's terrible is such an error could have occurred. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'll certainly get to the bottom of this. They're slowly but surely escorted out with the man's reassurance that he'll contact us if he learns something new. What do you make of that? Jerome Emmons is the dead guy. Why was there a mistake? Is this just a harmless mistake? I mean, I guess we can look up Jerome Emmons, but is this something important for us, or is it just a mistake? Kind of weird. I wonder if we could search through the newspapers for any clue. There was a West Indies boat accident in today's paper. Okay, let me find that. Yes, you're right. Freak accident occurred far up the Thames, from one in which West Indies boat sank while docking to the shore. Causes unknown. All 12 crew members rescued. Huh. All right, well, let's follow up on Jerome Emmons, and then we'll have to discuss whether this is something important. Do the things we can do easy first. Emmons, Jerome, 61 East, that's off our map. As is this. It does sound like far up the Thames from London. So it does sound like this is again up where Jerome Evans lived, but off our map. Sounds like maybe they just got the name wrong. Or is there something more nefarious going on? Um, we could scan previous paper. This is the paper from earlier in the month. I think we did look through this. I don't know what we're looking for. I guess we're looking for any mention of Jerome Emmons, but we think that probably happened just recently. I suppose what we could do is we could just cross our T's, dot our I's by heading over to a couple more allies. Melissa says, let's see what the chat is saying. If he drowned and just jumped overboard, how did he get so beat up? Why would Sherlock tell us to investigate this case? Was there a murder at the docks, or is it just about the crooked dentist? Well, I suppose let's go to some allies. Let's see if we can't stumble on something. Also, it was in the paper. So let's talk to our newspaper people. Okay. Let's see if we can't get some information about the story about that West Indies boat. Maybe we can stumble our way onto this story. Here's Henry Ellis. We inquire with a few reporters about the fire, but learn little more than what was already available to us. However, we do hear talk of a Mr. Beaufort and how the advertising department is glad to be rid of him. We asked for more information and learned that a Mr. Beaufort was hounding them lower prices on advertisement space in the time, but as of late he has not made contact, to the great relief of staff. When we ask if they can recall anything else about the man or his situations, they inform us shortly after his first newspaper article, an Italian man came by asking for more information about the man. The man looked homeless, and thus the staff here at the Times did not feel comfortable giving out the information. So after the first placement, which was last at the beginning of the month, we know that Beaufort put something in the paper. Maybe he wanted his teeth fixed. Facing Charing Cross Station. Someone may have seen him there, but that doesn't really help us. Okay. Let me check with Porky. Maybe he knows something about some weird stuff going on at the dock. Porky knows nothing about the names we mention. He does inform us that multiple storages of chloroform have gone missing here and there. Certainly, these are all pointing to our main case, nothing about our side case, which is seeming increasingly likely to be just a red herring. Criminal records, births, deaths. All right, let's check out Israeli O'Brien, 17WC. Might be time to read questions. We look up all the names related to our investigation, learn nothing of importance. However, strangely enough, the name Clint Wallace does not register as a deceased person, while the others already do so. Well, Clint Wallace is home with his wife. He's surprised that he's recorded as dead. It sounds like they just got the name wrong. Maybe just an honest mistake. And maybe he's bruised because he fell off the boat, right? I mean, if you fell off a boat, you might get bruised in the water. criminal court. Let's see if there are any records on our dentist. 36 EC. We find ourselves standing in front of Muddy's Select Library. This must be the wrong place. Looks like I went to the wrong place. Edward Hall appears to be unavailable. All right. Well, I think we might be at the end of this case. It's not like Clint Wallace is faking his own death. I think it's time to read the questions. DJ Moneycut says, how did they mistakenly identify Clint Wallace? I have no idea, but I don't think that, given our experience with chapter 1, it just may not be resolved. It may just be one of those mistaken identity things. I think we should read the questions. And then we'll find out if it expects us to know something else. Yeah? Is everyone okay with reading questions? YouTube says 12 concurrent viewers and 8 likes. We've been playing for 1 hour, 47 minutes. That's it. Short session tonight. You got to say vote and then what you want to vote for. So vote questions. Let's look back through our notes while everyone is voting. Let me see if there's anything we didn't do. We visited the funeral home. We visited all the people believed to be dead, including the mortician. We visited the chemical shop that we know the mortician went to, learned about the dentist and a homeless person inquiring about chloroform. We checked the autopsy, found there was an additional body burned to a crisp. We believe that's the homeless man who wasn't supposed to be in there. We tracked down to where the homeless person hangs out. We heard that he plots with the dentist, who's his friend, right nearby. We met a woman that knows his name, Paolo Veronesi. We learned the 2 chemicals that are used mainly by the mortician, chloroform and phenol. When we talked to the dentist, we learned that the mortician probably works in a dark basement, but that the chloroform wouldn't burn, but it would knock you out. So if a fire started, you wouldn't be able to put it out. So we have our theory. All right, so it sounds like everyone's agreeing to look at questions. All right, let's take a look. Here we go. Oh, it looks like we did miss something. How many people died? What were the names? What were they doing? What was the thief after? For whom did he perform the theft? Okay, so we know the answer to all these. But here are our side issues. What was the name of the sailor whose body got burned? Okay, we learned that. But How many enemies did John Mobley have, and what was the title of the first book to feature Sherlock Holmes? Right? Well, this is Study in Scarlet. Yeah, but we didn't learn that here. This sounds like it's not going to be in the case. Maybe just a side trivia. But what about this one? Let's answer these questions and then maybe we'll research a little bit more about Mobley. Okay, how many people died in the fire? So this is the answer to this is 2, right? This is Walter Latham, the mortician, and Paolo, the homeless guy, thief. What were they each doing? One was working and one was robbing, right? And then he was after chloroform. Sounds like it shouldn't be telling us that there was an attempted theft. Okay, and he was doing it for Buford, the dentist. Okay, the name of the sailor who actually died is Jerome Emmons. Looks like just a mistaken identity. But John Mobley. Okay, so we looked up John Mobley, 56 WC. Now, what did we get told there? He loved to drink. It was part of his job. Credit Lyonnais, but you won't find anything going on there, okay? We took that as a comment that we shouldn't even follow up, but apparently the wife doesn't know everything. Credit Lyonnais is 60 Southwest. Okay, let's go to 60 Southwest. We find the building closed and empty, just like she said. Apparently, the whole office was given a full day to mourn the loss of John Mobley. We learned from the clerk Mr. Mobley was in charge of creating the insurance policies of many different companies, was often seen going to fancy feasts with all manner of upper-class folk. What on earth? Jonathan says, maybe it's a trick question. The answer was just he had 0 enemies. How the hell are we supposed to know that? I mean, you make a good point. They're all mourning him. They miss him, but boy, how are we supposed to know he had no enemies? What a weird trick question. Did he go to the fancy boar hunt in the paper? Do we know how he died? Yes, he loves to drink. Okay. Did he go to the fancy boar hunt in the paper? Boar and Deer Hunting Party, Hunting Association of London. Free entrance on Monday, which was yesterday. Well, sounds tempting. New Hunting Association of London's Men. Where are we going to find that? There's no address here. Is it in our clubs? Not in clubs. Should we look up Clayton Partridge and Bennett Tinker? This is a weird thing here. All right, let's see. Sir Clayton Partridge is 60 Southwest. And then Bennett Tinker, if we wanted to look him up, maybe he made enemies of these people when he went and drank. Let's see. Bennett Tinker 42 Southeast. Okay, let's see. Maybe he made enemies of these people last night. So 60 Southwest is actually the guy who must own the company he worked at. But what about 42 Southeast? 42 Southeast isn't in the directory. Anna says, go see Langdale Pike, who knows about society stuff. All right, 2 Southwest. Langdale Pike has all the information we want about John Mobley, and though he talks mostly of his business endeavors, it's clear the man had no enemies. Even Langdale himself is taken aback by the man's passing last week. Okay. So there you have it. Anna was right. The society columnist knows about him because he attends society events. All right. Did we see this little picture? What is this one in reference to? Look at what it is. It's an old Victorian fire hose. They're pumping it to pump out water and put out the fire. All right. Let's solve our case here. Here are the answers. Holmes solved it in 5. There were 2 people that died. Walter Latham and Paolo Roni, we got these right. He was the mortician. Paolo Veronesi was the thief, yes. Tried to steal chloroform, sell it to Harrison Beaufort, yes. Jerome Evans, none. He was loved by all. This was Jonathan's theory, and Anna knew where to resolve it. And A Study in Scarlet, I knew that trivia. Okay. And here is our paid solution. The case of fumes and fire. It's late in the day when we make our way back to Baker Street, but after a thorough cleaning of our boots, Mrs. Hudson warmly welcomes us and even gives us each a cuppa. We make our way upstairs and find Sherlock and Watson in heavy debate. It's not always him, you know, says Watson in a rather aggravated manner. The 2 halt their conversation as we open the door fully. Gentlemen, good to see you. I assume you're here about last night's fire. I'm sure you managed splendidly. However, I'm rather busy at the moment. Sherlock walks into his private room and closes the door behind him. After a short silence, Watson gives us a warmer welcome and beckons us to sit. Oh, he's a busy man, I'm sure you know. He had me look into the fire at Clarence Robinson's as well, actually. Seemed to me to be a clear accident from what I read in the paper, but when I visited the location, it became clear there was more going on than you might think. I'm sure you were also bothered by the vagueness of the amount of bodies found. Luckily, our mutual friend Jasper Meeks knew the answers after a short visit to Bart's, and learning there was one burned body too many, it became clear something went awry. Watson takes a deep sip of his tea, all the while keeping an eye on Sherlock's door. The importance of the chemicals had me visit Squire and Sons, a place where the mortician got his chemicals from. They pointed me towards an overly eager dentist and strangely behaving homeless man. Both were not strong leads, but because of the vicinity of the funeral parlor to the temple, where the homeless man was known to hang out, I continued my investigation into his identity. After speaking to nearly every homeless man in West Central London, I eventually learned the identity of our suspect, the Italian Paolo Veronesi. After it became clear that he had direct ties with the before-mentioned dentist, I did some quick inquiries in Arundel Street to verify their criminal intent. And thus I learned that Harrison Beaufort, the dentist, had hired Paolo Veronesi to steal all the chloroform that was present at Clarence Robinson's. However, the Italian clearly did not expect Walter Latham to be working at that hour. Probably a fight ensued and chemicals were spilled, causing a fire to erupt. But why didn't they both run out when the fire started? Says Mrs. Hudson, who had been eavesdropping from the doorway. Well, Mrs. Hudson, we know the mortician primarily dealt with chloroform and phenol, mixture of which not only causes burns, but the chloroform created poisonous clouds when heated, which in all likelihood knocked out both our burned victims. Oh, that's real smart, Mr. Watson, says Mrs. Hudson. After a few more minutes of conversing and a few more minutes of Watson side-glancing at the door, we ask after the demeanor of Sherlock and if everything is all right. Oh, I'm sure it's nothing, says Watson. I'll just have a quick look to see if he wants some tea. Walking over to the door, Watson knocks heavily. After no answer follows, he opens the door. Mrs. Hudson, who is already carrying a cup of tea for Sherlock, drops it to the floor as she screams loudly. We jump to our feet and see that Sherlock's entire room has caught fire. Flames light up the hallway and smoke begins to crawl along the ceiling. Out! Shouts Watson. As we all run down the stairs, we hastily make our way onto the street. Just then we hear a loud explosion above us as the windows of Sherlock's apartment burst outwards in balls of fire. In the distance, we hear sirens coming closer. And that's the end of case 2. That's a bit of a cliffhanger for the end of a case. Do you think it continues in chapter 3? All right, Anna's got some comments. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll come back. We'll talk about our thoughts on the case. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, we're back to talk a little bit about our thoughts on Chapter 2 of the Winter Trilogy, The Case of Fumes and Fire. Let's see what the chat has to say. And it says, well, beginner scenario, nothing wrong with that, just not really for us. I'm curious how hard the third case will be. John says, the ideas are neat. Arson with extra bodies, all that came very early. After that, some very straightforward legwork. How about starting the third case right now? DJ Moneycut says, fun little case, falls into the category of mostly legwork rather than deduction. Mix-up of Clint and the sailor could have been a nice side case, was unresolved. It's interesting these cases seem to hide info that is considered important in the lead you could skip and still have the big picture, like going to 16 to find out the homeless man's name. There are some interesting things here. I do think that, as everyone has said, this was an easy case for us. However, you could absolutely see that some people would absolutely miss going to Arundel Street location, and then they wouldn't get the guy's name. So you could imagine even some people who had some experience with Sherlock Holmes might miss that. There were 2 times when we had to use a spatial look at the map to figure out where to go, like the chemist here on High Street, and noticing that the temple was right next to Arundel Street, which was right next to the funeral home. So I really enjoyed that. I do think you could put this in the category of games where it's mostly legwork. That's not to say it's not enjoyable. Sometimes the legwork cases are enjoyable, and part of that is when there's some interesting spatial stuff, and the other part of that is just the writing. Now, I do think it should be said that I found the dialogues here a step up from chapter 1. There were some funny ones, like the homeless guy who we talked to when we were inquiring about the Italian Paolo. That was fun, and it was fun talking to the woman who had run into him in Arundel Street. So I thought the actual interactions of chapter 2 were quite compelling, and some of them were quite humorous, and that was fun. So I enjoyed that more than I think chapter 1. And I think both chapters had an intriguing setup, and a little bit similar in that both games gave us, like, here's a bunch of people who are sort of tied together in some way. and we're sort of, you might think of it as like a breadth first thing, where you're sort of investigating all these different people, most of whom are tangential. In fact, all of the people that died were sort of side cases, but it was interesting that we could follow up a little bit on each of them. And I don't dislike this side secondary questions that are sort of like testing how thorough you are. And once again, we've got a case. Now, in this case, there weren't big parts of the case that weren't explained. In fact, you could imagine asking other questions like, how did the fire start? Here, this seemed to say that the fire started by the combination of chemicals, although I thought I had a good insight that he was working in the dark and they just knocked over a flame and couldn't have put out stuff. But all of the main case was wrapped up very cleanly. It was only the weird side case of the mistaken identity of the sailor that didn't get explained to us. But I guess it was communicated well enough that we probably didn't have to understand it. There's a question about whether there are any leads we didn't read that might shed some light on that. Are there any leads we didn't read that might clear up the misidentified body? Okay, let's skim through it and see. Beaufort home. We didn't even bother checking that. If you visit Mycroft, he says nothing of interest. Scotland Yard, nothing of interest. '97 Southwest. Not sure what that's about. Look, you can run into Sherlock Holmes in the Parsons toy shop. He says, what are you doing here? Your case has nothing to do with this. Fun. I wonder if that's going to be related to chapter 3. He's like, why on earth would you visit this place? Your investigation has no ties to any of this. I'm positive. Okay. Looks like you're going to follow up on the Italian angle. Not sure what 35 Northwest is. Maybe this was performers in the paper that are Italian. I know the fellow. A little bit more history about him. Got a job at the harbor. Frequents the temple. Back to Baker Street. Watson's forgotten his keys. Huh. Okay. Nothing at the cab. Quentin Hogg at the Police Gazette has nothing for us. Nope, that's it. All right, so Anna wants to get started on chapter 3, but we're not going to do that. Not on a Monday night after 2 hours. We're just going to have an early evening here, but we will meet again on Wednesday to play chapter 3. I will note that chapter 3 says, this case can only be played after having also played case 1 and case 2. As a forewarning, this case is more complex than most other cases, not even the other 2, but most other cases. And it looks to be about twice as large. So I think we're going to have a nice trajectory with chapter 3. Anything else to talk about? Anna says, this case, the first case and this one also gave away too much information in the first 2 or 3 leads. I think you're right. In terms of insights into writing cases, this is a good example of, well, it's interesting because I really like when there's a lot of information at the scene of the crime, but I do think it's a little bit of a lesson to case writers that you don't have to have everything in that first lead. You don't want to explain the mystery in that first lead. I don't know if it's fair to say that we got everything in the first lead, but yes, it's true, though, that as soon as we got the first lead, he told us that he gets his chemicals on High Street. And the moment we walked in there were people asking about chloroform. And with those first 2 leads, we were pretty sure what was going on. It's true. You have to make it harder to get the key evidence. You have to make it harder to get the key evidence. Yes, I think that's right. All right. 16 concurrent viewers. I don't know why there are people joining us here at the end, but on Wednesday, we will be playing chapter 3, the much harder and longer case. So you now have a chance to watch, if you've missed the first 2 chapters, to watch chapters 1 and 2 and join us on Wednesday for chapter 3, the longer, harder case. I am looking forward to it. There's something fun about a continuing series. The Remarkable Story of Iberline on Netflix. I believe I'm getting the title right. A little bit of a documentary. I recommend it. Jonathan, I was recommending a movie to you. Have you seen it yet? I don't remember if I named it wrong. I gave it the wrong name when I recommended it the first time, but it is called They Look Like People, a very low-budget, horror-ish type movie. You have to have low expectations in terms of being low budget, but I loved it, and I'd like to talk about it on Wednesday when we meet. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.